Hello, and welcome to Shrink, the podcast for the mind. I'm Philippe and I talk to the people who want to have a better understanding of their issues with weight and body image. I would like to introduce you to a tool that I've used with so many of my clients for so many years, and it's a very efficient one. It's what I call a food and emotion diary. It's a diary that you will fill in for a few weeks, and every time you're about to eat or to drink something which contains calories. The idea is not to make you feel guilty about what you're eating, what you're about to drink, because guilt, as I've said many times before, has never helped anyone losing weight. But to be more responsible, to be more mindful, to be more intuitive. So it should be accessible. It should be, either a notebook that you have in your bag or in your pocket, or you can write it down on your phone, or you can carry a sheet of paper with you. It doesn't matter. But it should be something that is easy to fill in fact. So the first thing you should write down is the food and eventually drinks you're about to have. You don't need to weigh your food or not to write all the ingredients. It doesn't matter. But I would like you to estimate the size of what you're about to eat. For example, a small bowl of granola or a large plate of pasta with quite a lot of grated cheese. You should only mention the drinks that contain calories, like I said, if it's coffee and tea, it's only with, if it contains sugar, if it's alcohol or fruit juices, then you should write it down. Then the second column is called emotions and context. How do you feel when you're about to have that meal? How are you feeling right now when you're about to start eating? I really encourage you to take a deep breath so that you can identify which emotion you're experiencing. The idea is not to get rid of this emotion because, emotions tell us very important things about what's happening in our life. But to be able to put it aside for a moment, just during that lunch that we're about to have, or just during that snack that we are willing to eat. Our brain is always active, and I would like you to see if you can sort out these thoughts for a moment, putting them aside. So I said this column is called emotions and context. The context is, for example, I'm eating by myself in front of the computer, or I'm eating with a friend in a cafe, or I'm eating with my kids while watching TV. I don't think any context is bad in essence, but I want you to realize that, for example, if you're eating in front of your computer, are you watching a movie? Are you working? How can you be in touch with your hunger and your satiety, your emotions, whilst you're doing this? If you're chatting with a friend, again, it's great. I don't encourage you to eat all by yourself in a silent room. I know, we don't live, we're not monks. But even if you're having a meal with a friend, take a few minutes, or at least a minute, to ask yourself how you're feeling in terms of emotions and in terms of hunger and satiety. Are you comfortable? Are you sitting comfortably? I've seen that, when we're not comfortable, we just want, let's say if you eat quickly, you're sitting somewhere in the kitchen and it's not comfy, well, you will be tempted to eat quicker because, in fact, you don't want to stay into that position and you want to get back to what you were doing before. So ask yourself, am I comfortable? Then the third column is called hunger, satiety, pleasure. How hungry are you before you start eating? Are you a bit hungry? Are you very hungry? If you're a bit hungry, you should know it indicates you that maybe you don't need to eat, for example, this large plate of pasta. So you can keep that in mind. You shouldn't be worried, or you should be, concerned about it and thinking about it all the time. But think, in fact, I'm only a bit hungry, so maybe I can do with, half that plate. I'll see. I'll check a bit later. If you're very hungry, you have to watch out because when we are very hungry, we are tempted to eat much quicker. And in fact, when we're very hungry, most of the time we don't need that much more food. So let's say if I'm hungry at 10 in the morning, but I can only eat at 12 at midday. Well, I don't need that much more food because I've waited 2 hours. I don't. energy-wise, it's not like I need much more food, but you could be tempted to eat more because you feel very hungry. So keep that in mind. Again, the idea is not for you to worry or to be stressed around this, but more being mindful, knowing what's going on. The society, in fact, is that point when you feel when you're not hungry anymore. And most people have lost track of their society. In fact, they think they're sated when they're done with their meal, when they're done with their plate, with their starter and main, and they don't check with themselves if, let's say, they are sated after eating, I don't know, the first half of their sandwich, or after eating half of the plate of pasta that I mentioned a few times before already. So I would like you to check this hunger and this society once you're done with, let's say, half of your food. Ask yourself again, okay, how do I feel now emotionally? Am I still in the same place? In fact, before I started eating, I mentioned this frustration or this anger because I had this difficult conversation with my boss. Am I still thinking about that? Or, I mean, not thinking, but is it still there somehow in the background? Yeah, it's still there, but I'm going to put it aside. Am I still hungry? I don't know. Well, if you don't know, for sure it means you're not hungry anymore. Because when you're hungry, your body is letting you know that you need more energy, that you need more food. So when you don't know, it simply means that you're not hungry anymore. So some people will think, and it's not unusual, I hear that quite often, yeah, but I only ate like a third of my sandwich. And I mean, I'm sure I will be hungry in an hour. In another hour, I will be hungry, and it won't be that convenient for me to eat again. Yeah, but you don't want to put more food in your body just because it may be more difficult to eat later on. And you shouldn't be worried. Most of the time, if you feel sated, if you feel like you had enough food, you're going to feel like that for at least a few hours. So don't worry. You don't have to eat with anticipation, I would say, in order not to be hungry later on. You could ask yourself as well, before you start eating, am I thirsty? Because for some people confuse their hunger with their thirst, in fact. And they will eat because they're thirsty. And I'm sure you will agree that it's a shame to eat whilst, in fact, you're just thirsty. So I said it was, the last column was called Hunger, Society, Pleasure, because I believe that pleasure should be part of our meals. So are you enjoying what you're having? That's another question you should ask yourself. Do you keep enjoying it in the same way when you've eaten, let's say, half of your plate? And the same goes with your drinks. Are you still enjoying it? Because most of the time when we're not hungry anymore, we don't enjoy it that much. So let's say you've ordered a chocolate cake and you're enjoying it. At some point, if you've had enough, if your body is somehow telling you, thank you, it was enough, you're not enjoying that much anymore. You just keep on eating because it's there. You keep on eating it because you don't want the waiter eventually, if you're in a restaurant, to ask you if there was anything wrong with your cake. You don't want to stop eating because you don't want your friends to ask if you didn't enjoy it, or are you on a diet, or anyway, it's so much easier. I'm just going to eat it. Well, no, that's a shame. Check if you're still hungry and if you're still enjoying it. This diary is something that is not easy to do, and sometimes you will forget. And in fact, you will be tempted to forget it in the situation or in the context where unconsciously, when you will be more tempted to eat more because you don't want to be confronted by this. There is something a bit confronting about this, because you will, after a few days, if you read it back, you will see the patterns. You will see, in fact, despite what I was thinking, it's usually more in the evening that I eat more, and it's usually when I'm by myself, and you don't want to be confronted sometimes with all these things. But again, if you're not happy with your weight, and instead of doing a diet which is not going to change anything to these patterns, and at least on the long term, well, it's worth having a good look at this. Let me know if you encounter any difficulty, even if you want to do it, and if you encounter any difficulty in doing it, just send me a message, and I'll be happy to help you. And again, if you want me to send this diary, I will do it with pleasure, of course, at no charge, because anyway, it's in my book. You can find it in different places. I hope this will be helpful. I know it can be, and I'm sorry if I insist again with this, but don't use it to blame yourself, or don't use it to create more guilt than you have already, because that's not what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to be a benevolent tool to help you understand why and how you eat and change these patterns.